Pursuers scoured the alley, frustrated that their target had vanished. One of the men caught his breath, annoyed by the prolonged chase. His companions agreed, cursing their elusive prey as their impatience grew. A faint sound then drew their attention towards a set of old lockers. Hidden inside, a young man held his breath, hoping he would not be found. He cautiously peeked out, wondering if the coast was finally clear. The alley was silent. His pursuers were gone. The young man let out a deep sigh of relief. It had been a close call. He then rushed to the place he was supposed to be. He burst into the restaurant, apologizing for his tardiness. A man in an apron greeted him with a stern lecture about the busy hour. The young man explained that he had run into some trouble on his way. He tried to brush it off, insisting that everything was fine now. But his coworker pressed him, worried that the pursuers had followed him. The young man reassured him that he had escaped and was told to get ready for work. Yeoman diligently worked his shift at the restaurant. He served customers their meal with a smile. Afterward, he moved to the kitchen to wash the dishes. His duties also included taking out the trash. Night fell, but his work was far from over. He stayed late to clean the tables for closing time. His fatigue was so apparent that his coworkers grew concerned. However, Yeoman insisted on staying, claiming it was his last job of the day. He had once told a friend he juggled about 4 different jobs, but the reality was a relentless cycle of work and classes from dawn until dusk. The endless routine left him completely dazed and exhausted. As he walked, the young man was struck by a pang of hunger. He arrived at the university campus for his night classes. Needing a quick meal, he stopped by a convenience store. He longed for a sandwich, but its price was a luxury he couldn't afford. Yeoman worried about his tight budget for the month. He resolved to save money, even if it meant simple meals. The young man continued on his way through the university hall. Suddenly, a voice called out his name. A fellow student confronted him about an unpaid mandatory fee. Yeoman calmly explained that his part-time job prevented him from attending. As he turned to leave, the student insisted he still had to pay. However, another student stepped in to explain Yeoman's situation. As Yeoman walked away, the others gossiped about his difficult circumstances. He overheard everything, but could only offer a weary smile. He was resigned to the rumors. There was nothing he could do. Exhausted, he decided to take a quick nap before class began. Later that night, during a tutoring session, he was asked a personal question. The question caught him completely by surprise. Yeoman tried to redirect the conversation, but his student persisted. Yeoman answered his student's question about his love life. The student pressed for more details, but Yeoman steered the conversation back to their studies. The young man then shifted his focus to his tutor's appearance. He bluntly called Yeoman's style tacky. He reminded the tutor of the high salary his mother was paying. The student suggested Yeoman should use the money to buy better clothes. Yeoman remained silent, trying to continue the lesson. He forced a smile and simply agreed with the suggestion. The student seemed disappointed by the calm reaction, finding it boring. After the tutoring session ended, Yeoman reflected on the difficulty of his job. He knew he couldn't afford to lose this position, no matter what. The student's comments about his clothes had clearly affected him. He clutched his books, silently defending his limited wardrobe. As he waited for the elevator, he remembered a personal vow. It was a promise he made to himself whenever he felt shaken. As Yeoman waited for the elevator, another person approached. The man's imposing figure came to a halt right beside him. Yeoman was immediately struck by the stranger's presence. The man possessed a sharp and intimidating gaze. A quiet, awkward tension filled the space between them. Yeoman couldn't resist stealing a curious glance. He was amazed by the significant height difference. For a brief moment, their eyes unexpectedly met. Before we continue, do one quick thing. Subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot and allows me to keep bringing you stories like this. And of course, you won't miss the next videos that might surprise you even more. If this one already captivated you, imagine what's coming next. So, subscribe and let's continue. Flustered, Yeoman wondered what kind of person he was. The elevator's arrival finally broke the silence. Yeoman entered, his mind shifting back to his duties. But in his haste, his book started to slip from his grasp. He knelt to the floor, trying to gather his dropped belongings. Before he could react, the man accidentally stepped on his papers. Yeoman looked up, shocked by the sudden turn of events. Without a word, the man turned and walked away. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a new day began. Inside a cluttered room, an alarm started to ring. The sound came from a cracked phone screen. A hand reached out to silence the persistent noise. Yeoman groggily woke up, still lost in a daze. He stretched, wishing he could go back to sleep, but his day had already begun and he headed out. The exhaustion was already evident on his face. His landlady stopped him, immediately starting to complain. She scolded him about his late-night schedule. Later, at his part-time job, the morning's lecture still weighed on him. He explained the situation to a concerned coworker. He downplayed the harsh conditions of his cheap room. Their conversation was cut short when she realized she was late for class. As his coworker left for class, a new customer stepped into the cafe. Yeoman looked up, startled by the familiar face. The imposing man from the elevator walked through the door. His sharp, intimidating gaze swept across the room. Yeoman was taken aback when the man placed his order. He suddenly realized it was the same person from the day before. The young barista wondered if this second meeting was just a coincidence. The mysterious man sat down, his eyes fixed on Yeoman. His intense stare was unwavering. Yeoman felt increasingly uncomfortable under the man's scrutiny. He worried that he had somehow displeased the customer. Later, at another part-time job, Yeoman served a family at a restaurant. He noticed a small child sitting quietly at their table. Being thoughtful, he brought out a special dish just for her. He wished them a good meal and returned to his duties. The restaurant owner noticed a car parked outside and called for Yeoman. The young man listened to his boss's request. A vehicle was blocking the entrance to the store. Yeoman went outside to ask the driver to move. He knocked on the window, trying to get someone's attention. He politely explained that the car was in the way. The young man suggested moving it to the proper parking lot. However, the vehicle remained silent and still. With no contact number visible, Yeoman was unsure what to do. He decided to lean in for a closer look. He peered into the darkly tinted window. Suddenly, the glass rolled down, revealing an intimidatingly familiar face. The man grabbed Yeoman's hand, startling him with a question. Yeoman was left completely stunned and speechless. Later, the mysterious man sat before him, demanding an answer. The secretary delivered a dinner invitation from the chairman, hiding his disdain. The son knew his father's invitation was not a gesture of affection. Amused by his secretary's honesty, the son inquired about the real agenda. Later that evening, he arrived at the imposing family mansion. An envelope was thrown down in anger. The young man sat calmly, awaiting the inevitable lecture. His father began the confrontation, furious about his son's romantic escapades. The son was completely unfazed, already knowing the reason for the summons. He casually named a woman, leaving his father and the secretary stunned. As the son continued to list names, his father began to tremble with rage. He calmly examined the photograph from the envelope. He found the evidence unimpressive, even mocking its lack of scandal. His dismissive attitude finally caused his father to erupt in fury. The chairman furiously ordered him to end all of his current relationships. With a defiant smile, he refused to make a promise he wouldn't keep. Yeoman was overjoyed by the unexpected gift. He couldn't believe the bicycle was truly for him. He gratefully accepted it, explaining it would help with his new delivery job. However, his friend's question about his other part-time work made him hesitate. Meanwhile, a past incident replayed in his mind, where menacing figures trashed his workplace looking for him. Back then, Yeoman had stepped forward to face them. The memory of his boss blaming him for the trouble still stung. Back in the present, his friend wondered how the mobsters kept finding him. Yeoman initially denied being followed, though he looked troubled. But then, a sudden realization struck him. He frantically remembered that someone had indeed been showing up. He explained that a strange man kept appearing at all of his jobs. He recalled the same imposing figure watching him after tutoring and at the cafe. The pieces fell into place. He realized even the loan shark's recent appearance was no coincidence. His friend warned him to be cautious, but Yeoman prepared to leave for his deliveries anyway. In a car moving through the city, the driver offered some thoughts. The man in the backseat listened with a stern expression. His associate advised him to be cautious, following the chairman's orders. He was warned that someone had likely been tailing him. Meanwhile, in another part of town, the sun began to set. Yeoman celebrated his earnings after his first successful delivery run. He decided to grab a quick bite at home before heading to his tutoring session. Back in the car, the men reviewed photos of a suspicious individual. The man in the suit contemplated the evidence presented to him. Their vehicle came to a stop on the road. As he looked out the window, he felt a sudden sense of recognition. A bicycle pulled up right beside the car door. Yeoman casually glanced over, his eyes meeting the passengers. A jolt of pure terror shot through him as he recognized the man. The mysterious man realized it too. This was the person from that day. Panic set in as Yeoman recognized the loan shark chasing him. The mysterious man urgently ordered his secretary to pursue the cyclist. The car immediately lurched forward in pursuit. A glance back confirmed Yeoman's worst fears. A desperate chase began through the busy streets. Seeing an opportunity, Yeoman swerved into a narrow alley. The car screeched to a halt at the alley's entrance, but their target had vanished completely. The man berated his driver for failing to catch a simple bicycle. Frustrated, the pursuers finally drove away. Silence returned to the narrow, empty alley. It seemed as though no one had ever been there. Cautiously, Yeoman peeked out from his hiding spot. A wave of relief washed over him. He had survived. Later, the frustrating encounter still weighed on the man's mind. The man sat in disbelief, questioning his senior's words. Yeoman arrived with a cheerful excuse for his slightly disheveled state. He apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again, but his presence was clearly an annoyance. Later that night, the city carried on as usual. As Yeoman left, a sudden hunger reminded him that he hadn't eaten all day. The exhaustion from his long day was clearly visible on his face. He checked his wallet, only to find a single coin left. To his dismay, his last coin slipped from his grasp and rolled away. Meanwhile, the mysterious man was in the middle of a serious phone call. He dismissed the caller's concerns about a new movie and potential media exposure. He calmly continued the conversation, a confident smirk on his lips. As he walked, he felt unwell and reflected on his pursuer's skill. His thoughts were interrupted when he saw the young man on the ground by his car. Yeoman stretched desperately under the vehicle, almost reaching his lost coin. Suddenly aware of a presence, he looked up, startled, and tried to explain his actions. The man's expression shifted as he recognized the young man on the ground. A tense silence hung in the air between them. Suddenly, a terrifying memory flooded Yeoman's mind. It was the loan shark he had been running from. The gangster's face had contorted with rage. Cornered, Yeoman had cried out in sheer desperation. But the gangster was caught off guard by his target's unexpected speed. In a desperate move, Yeoman had sprinted towards a nearby truck. He threw himself onto the back, hoping for an escape. The truck began to pull away, leaving the gangster behind on the sidewalk. The man could only watch, stunned by the sudden turn of events. The vehicle drove off into the city night. From the truck bed, Yeoman looked back, relieved to have escaped. His mind then drifted to another dark memory of being brutally interrogated. His captor had taunted him about his missing father. In a desolate warehouse, Yeoman pleaded for his life, insisting he knew nothing. The terrifying memories haunted Yeoman even in his sleep. He struggled to get out of bed, his body heavy with dread. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic rhythm of fear. The young man recalled the dangerous events of the previous day. He was filled with dread, knowing he had to avoid being caught at all costs. Despite his fear, Yeoman knew he had something important to do. Meanwhile, the mysterious man considered his next move from his car. He recalled the boy who had been lurking around his house. The man remembered seeing him everywhere, a constant, unsettling presence. His expression hardened with resolve. He spotted Yeoman on the street and made a vow to catch him. Suddenly, the sound of screeching tires filled the air. The man slammed on the brakes with force. He got out of his car, furious at the person who had appeared out of nowhere. Yeoman, stunned on the ground, looked up at the driver in shock. The mysterious man's heart skipped a beat. He finally found him. A jolt of panic shot through Yeoman, and he immediately turned to flee. The chase began instantly, with Yeoman crying out for help. The man offered a false promise, but Yeoman refused to fall for the obvious trap. He pushed himself to run faster, his only thought being escape. Yeoman scrambled through the cluttered alley, leaving chaos in his wake. His pursuer was both amused and infuriated by the desperate attempt. Their shouts echoed through the narrow passage as the pursuit continued. Seeing an opportunity, Yeoman ducked into a nearby building for cover. The man followed, finding that his target had cornered himself in a public restroom. Trapped inside, Yeoman listened in terror as the man pounded on the locked door. With a single, powerful kick, the pursuer shattered the doorframe. But upon entering, he found the room completely empty. A glance out the window revealed the truth. Yeoman had escaped again. The chase resumed, much to the man's delight and Yeoman's utter despair. Yeoman ran with the last of his strength, his body screaming in protest. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the empty street. He had stumbled, losing a shoe in his desperate flight. His pursuer finally caught him, pinning the exhausted young man to the ground. The man savored his victory, a menacing smile on his face. He grabbed Yeoman by the hair, forcing him to look up. Terrified, Yeoman broke down, begging for his life and promising anything. His captor, however, was completely baffled by this reaction. He knelt, trying to understand the source of the young man's absolute terror. Through his tears, Yeoman identified him as a dangerous loan shark. The man then held up the student ID Yeoman had dropped during the chase. It all became clear. Yeoman had been running away due to a massive misunderstanding. Still shaken, Yeoman pointed out that the man's constant appearances were incredibly suspicious. The man scoffed, revealing he was just an ordinary office worker. With the air finally cleared, they decided to go their separate ways. Meanwhile, the mysterious man's abandoned car blocked traffic, angering nearby drivers. One of the men grew increasingly frustrated with the delay. The mysterious man returned to his vehicle, unfazed by the driver's threats. He found it absurd that he had been mistaken for a loan shark. As the man drove away, the other drivers were left fuming on the sidewalk. Yeoman felt a wave of relief, believing the whole ordeal was finally over. He decided to head to his next part-time job a little early. However, as he started to pedal, he noticed a slight limp from his fall. He soon arrived at a small restaurant and called out to his friend inside. The friend greeted him with a warm smile and offered him some food. Yeoman explained that he had scraped himself up after taking a tumble. His friend gestured for him to take a seat at the counter. He then set down a plate of kimbap for Yeoman to eat. When Yeoman recounted his encounter, his friend was stunned by the details. The story of the supposed loan shark left him completely bewildered. Yeoman was grateful for the simple meal offered by his friend, but his break was cut short by an unexpected request for help. The favor led him to the location of another part-time job. Meanwhile, in a corporate high-rise, a busy schedule was being discussed. An executive expressed his irritation with the day's upcoming meetings. He suddenly stopped, his attention caught by something else entirely. A memory of the young man's desperate tears flashed through his mind. His assistant suggested investigating the person from the article photos. However, the executive curtly ordered him to drop the search. The assistant was left to grumble about his boss's temperamental nature. Elsewhere, Yeoman had already started his new job as a parking attendant. He began guiding a car down into the underground parking lot. The young man diligently directed the vehicle into the garage. He politely gave the driver directions to their destination. Yeoman continued to assist each customer with a professional smile. Yeoman was grateful for the job, though it was clearly taking a toll on him. But every step he took sent a sharp pain through his foot. He endured it, knowing a trip to the hospital was a luxury he couldn't afford. The memory of the assault that caused his injuries was still fresh. He decided he would just have to treat the injury himself when he got home. Suddenly, the sound of a vehicle pulling up caught his attention. He put on a professional smile and approached the driver to offer assistance. However, the men inside were not customers. They knew exactly who he was. In an instant, they burst from the van and gave chase, shouting threats. A wave of terror washed over Yeoman as he fled for his life. His only thought was to escape up the nearest staircase, fearing what they would do if he was caught. But his injured ankle screamed in protest with every desperate step. The pain became unbearable, forcing him to a stop as his pursuers closed in from below. He ignored the agony and willed himself to continue the desperate climb. But as he reached the top, he collided with an unexpected figure blocking his path. Losing his balance, Yeoman stumbled into the stranger and offered a quick apology. The imposing figure looked down, questioning the sudden interruption. Yeoman looked up, his breath catching as he realized his escape was blocked. Trapped between his pursuers and this stranger, he was frozen in place. The reality of his hopeless situation began to sink in. As he tried to stammer an explanation, the man suddenly grabbed his wrist. The unexpected touch made the young man flinch in surprise. With no other choice, he lunged forward, desperately pleading for the man to hide him. The man was taken aback, completely bewildered by the sudden plea. Yeoman trembled uncontrollably against him, overwhelmed by pure terror. Noticing the violent shaking, the stranger held him, pondering the cause of such fear. Meanwhile, his pursuers were rapidly closing the distance. Making a split-second decision, the man shielded Yeoman just as the pursuers arrived. Hidden in the stranger's embrace, Yeoman could only wait helplessly. The pursuers rushed past, completely oblivious to their hidden quarry. With the danger gone, the mysterious man continued to hold Yeoman. He calmly informed the young man that his pursuers had left. But a sudden touch made Yeoman flinch away from him. The stranger tilted his chin, forcing him to make eye contact. He questioned if Yeoman's trembling was because he feared him as well. The man wondered if he had been mistaken for one of the thugs. Suddenly, Yeoman's body went limp and he collapsed. The young man had fainted from the overwhelming stress. A faint, intrigued smile crossed the stranger's lips. Sometime later, Yeoman slowly regained consciousness. Feeling dazed, he shot upright in a panic, confused about where he was. The sterile environment made him realize he was in a hospital. A new wave of anxiety washed over him at the thought of the cost. A familiar voice announced that he was finally awake. Yeoman turned, shocked to see the mysterious man from the alley. The mysterious man sat by the hospital bed, dismissing Yeoman's thanks. He found the entire situation increasingly intriguing. The man then questioned Yeoman's poor self-care habits. His sharp observation about the ankle injury caught Yeoman by surprise. He then moved to inspect the injury, asking how it had happened. A sudden memory made the man realize he was the one responsible. Yeoman, unaware, expressed his profound gratitude for being saved. Gathering his courage, he finally asked for his savior's name. The name Yeon Taeseo echoed in Yeoman's mind, leaving him flustered. Taeseo then stood, preparing to take his leave. However, he first admitted his own fault in causing the injury. Outside the room, Taeseo arranged for Yeoman's hospital discharge. Yeoman overheard, touched that Taeseo had registered as his guardian. Overwhelmed by the recent terror, Yeoman broke down and confessed his fear. The sudden embrace left him completely flustered. Yeoman was completely flustered, questioning his own thoughts. Taeseo drove him home, stopping in front of his building. As Yeoman got out of the car, he began to say his goodbyes. However, he hesitated, unable to let the man leave just yet. Taeseo noticed his reluctance and asked what was on his mind. Gathering his courage, Yeoman invited him inside for a drink. Taeseo was amused by the young man's earnest offer. Yeoman explained it was his way of apologizing and showing gratitude. He admitted it would be a shame to part ways so soon. Finally, he shyly asked if Taeseo could stay for a while. The direct request caught Taeseo by surprise. His quiet amusement turned into open laughter, confusing Yeoman. Taeseo gently touched his cheek, reminding him how he'd fled in fear before. He leaned in closer, acknowledging his part in causing the injury. The sudden closeness and gentle touch left Yeoman speechless. Taeseo held him to his word, accepting the invitation inside. Yeoman led the way up to his rooftop apartment. He stopped before the entrance to his humble home. Feeling self-conscious, Yeoman apologized for the cramped space. But Taeseo stepped inside without hesitation. His first observation was the sheer number of books. He examined the notes on the wall, piecing together Yeoman's life. Meanwhile, Yeoman tried to make his guest feel comfortable. Taeseo picked up a book, his expression unreadable as he scanned it. Yeoman shyly insisted they were no longer strangers. Taeseo's attention then shifted to a small piggy bank on the shelf. Alarmed, Yeoman rushed to get it back, but Taeseo held it out of reach. He desperately reached for his small savings. The playful chase ended as Taeseo trapped him against his body. The mood shifted as Taeseo posed a dangerous question. Yeoman was left flustered by the sudden, intense question. Taeseo gently held his hand, stopping him from pulling away. The young man insisted they were no longer strangers. He was grateful that Taeseo had stayed by his side like a guardian. In fact, seeing Taeseo's face had made him feel surprisingly safe. Suddenly, Taeseo pulled him into an unexpected embrace. He whispered that he had been worried about Yeoman as well. The older man leaned in closer, trapping him against the desk. Taeseo listened intently to Yeoman's rambling confession. But then, a rustling sound from outside interrupted the moment. A visitor had arrived at the apartment, looking around in confusion. He approached the door, wondering if anyone was home. Hearing the lights on, the man knocked and called out for Yeoman. Startled, Taeseo quickly covered Yeoman's mouth to keep him quiet. Yeoman was confused. He hadn't been expecting anyone to visit. Yeoman explained to his friend that the man was actually very kind. He recalled the moment just before, when he had frozen at the door. He had hesitated, asking if the man was about to leave. But as the man reached for the doorknob, he stopped. Instead, he leaned in and asked if he should visit again later. Back in the present, Yeoman was lost in the memory of that moment. He stared into space, completely zoned out. His friend's sudden question snapped him back to reality. The friend admitted he thought a loan shark had found Yeoman's home. Yeoman smiled, clarifying that the man had been a savior, not a threat. He felt flustered, wishing he had invited the man to stay for chicken. The memory of that intense, knowing smile lingered in his mind. His friend's comment about the man's height only made Yeoman blush more. As evening fell, Yeoman quietly hoped he would come by again. Meanwhile, in a vast and empty home, someone else returned. After his shower, the house was silent except for the dripping water. He walked through the empty rooms, his footsteps echoing softly. The man dried his hair, his mind elsewhere. He moved through the hallway, wrapped in a simple robe. Water still clung to his skin from the recent shower. A vivid memory suddenly came to mind. He remembered the feeling of that impulsive kiss. Back in the present, a faint smirk touched his lips as he thought of the boy. Meanwhile, at a small cafe, the day was just as ordinary. Yeoman focused on washing the dishes, lost in his own thoughts. The chime of the front doorbell suddenly caught his attention. He quickly turned, a hopeful greeting on his lips. But the new customers were just a random couple. His shoulders slumped in disappointment. It wasn't Tai Seo. A coworker noticed his behavior and couldn't help but tease him. Yeoman felt flustered, wondering if his feelings had been too obvious. He reasoned that the man was probably still at work anyway. His coworker noticed the time and asked if he was heading home. Yeoman deflected the praise for his hard work and left for his next job. He soon arrived at an elegant and quiet residence. But even at his new workplace, his thoughts returned to the same person. He regretted not leaving a note or asking for a way to contact him. A wave of sadness hit him with the fear he might never see the man again. Suddenly, a large figure appeared right behind him, making him jump. The man gave him strict instructions for his cleaning duties. Yeoman stepped onto the ladder to begin his work. He started the arduous task of cleaning the large glass roof. The ladder wasn't high enough, so he carefully climbed onto the structure itself. The sheer size of the house made him wonder about the person who lived there. He had worked many cleaning jobs, but had never seen a mansion so grand. As Yeoman worked, the man who hired him approached the ladder with a plan. His colleagues joined him, completely unaware of the situation above. A sudden thud from below caught Yeoman's attention. He looked down in shock to see the ladder had been knocked over. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, a tense business dinner was in progress. One man in a dark suit seemed particularly displeased with the conversation. Ignoring the request for him to stay, he stood up and left the room. The man left behind could only watch in silent frustration. The man in the suit stepped outside onto the terrace for some fresh air. He decided to have a smoke to clear his head. He lit the cigarette, his thoughts heavy. He hated every moment he had to spend in that house. The man resented being summoned away from his own busy life. Suddenly, a hesitant voice from above interrupted his thoughts. He looked up, only to be stunned by the familiar face stranded on the roof. Yeoman was stunned to see a familiar face looking up at him. The man below simply smirked, finding the situation amusing. They quickly discovered the strange coincidence of both being there for part-time jobs. At Yeoman's request, the man examined the fallen ladder. He quickly realized that it was completely broken and unusable. Yeoman was confused by the man's sudden pause. The man stood his ground, assessing the height of the fall. Yeoman considered jumping, but worried about his recently injured ankle. He felt trapped, with no easy way down. Then, the man below offered a surprising solution. He confidently offered to catch Yeoman if he jumped. Yeoman was left speechless by the bold suggestion. Seeing his hesitation, the man pretended to leave, forcing a decision. Yeoman found himself securely in the man's arms. The sudden proximity made him blush, caught off guard by the intimacy. From a balcony above, a subordinate watched the scene unfold. He seemed deeply concerned by what he was witnessing. Meanwhile, the mysterious man held Yeoman tightly, silencing him with a hand. The man then whispered, feigning ignorance for anyone who might be listening. Overwhelmed by the sudden closeness, Yeoman could only stare back. Once the danger passed, he confessed how happy he was to see his savior. The man listened with an amused smile, intrigued by the heartfelt words. He gently caressed Yeoman's cheek, promising to visit him later. They shared a warm embrace as the man offered words of encouragement. After they parted, he watched another man walk away into the distance. He turned back with a look of quiet satisfaction. Later that night, the scene shifted to the bustling city. Elsewhere, a young man was reminded of a promise as he prepared to leave. He chuckled to himself while heading for the elevator. He paused for a moment, taking a quick look around the hallway. Yeoman stood dazed, the man's final words echoing in his mind. He began his long walk home through the city streets. To save what little money he had, he decided against taking the bus. Exhausted, he dragged his feet along the pavement. His thoughts inevitably drifted back to the mysterious stranger. The memory of being held so securely still made his heart race. Finally, he arrived in his neighborhood. The endless streets had left him completely drained. As he approached his home, he worried about what would happen the next day. He tried to sneak in quietly, his mind still racing, but a sudden presence made him freeze in his tracks. The man he was just thinking about was sitting there, waiting for him. Yeoman stared in utter disbelief, barely able to speak his name. The man, Tae-seo, rose and chided him for being out so late. Tae-seo smirked, admitting he came because he knew Yeoman wanted to see him. Tae-seo trapped him against the doorframe, leaving Yeoman with no escape. The moment they were inside, Tae-seo pulled him into a passionate kiss. A knowing smile crossed his face. This reunion was no coincidence.